Straight Talk with your host Reggie B. Come on, let's all join in. Free your voice, it's your choice, all right here. Oh, Simply Straight Talk.
Hey, I'm making some changes in my way of thinking and I wanted to get your thoughts.
No problem. What's up?
Well, I've decided that any new guy I date needs to make $100,000 a year. Tired of broke men. Now for the Robert Townsend Community Award. Whoever posts the best Facebook video wins. So what do you think?
Well, you do know that Robert Townsend is one of the greatest African-American movie directors, right?
Man, I know that, so what's your point?
Don't you think you might be lowering and raising the standards in the wrong places?
See, this is why people can't have goals in life. People like you.
But you said you wanted my thoughts.
Well, I am unwanting your conversations and unthoughts.
I don't think unthoughts is a word. Hello? Hello?
Welcome to the Simply Straight Talk Show with your host, Reggie, keeping it real with discussions on this thing we call life.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Simply Straight Talk Show. This is your host, Reggie, and I'm back in the original studio today. Man, I'm loving it. But today, we're going to be talking about your standards and your reality. The reality of your standards. And more simply put, okay, let's break it down a little bit more. We're going to be talking about lowering and raising your standards in the wrong places, because this is happening in so many areas, not just in our personal lives, in the political world, in the business world. All of this is taking place, man. Have you ever thought about that, though? What about you? Are you raising and lowering your standards in the wrong places? Are you trying to compromise in places to where you need to set your standards higher? Or maybe you're compromising in the reverse, where you're raising your standards in places you need to be lowering. I got it right there. So that's what we want to talk about today. And we really want to get into that, because I think sometimes things happen and we really don't think about what we're actually doing. Because in our minds, we're thinking we want what's going to be best for us. But sometimes we might be thinking the best for right now, and we're not necessarily thinking long term. So, and in that aspect, you could be missing out on something good if you don't have your standards set properly, if you don't have them balanced. Because if you got them lowered and raised in the wrong places, you never know when that blessing might be walking past you, going right out the door, that opportunity. So that's what we want to talk about today. Raising and lowering your standards in the wrong places, your standards versus reality. And reality, I think that's the key word. And we're going to come back to that. But first, let's talk about the whole thing of just raising and lowering your standards. And let's get into some places where we can actually relate to where we can see where the standards could be raised and lowered in the wrong places. But first, let's just go ahead and get politics out the way. Because when I was thinking about this list, I was like, man, politics has to play a part. Because especially with today's administration, the standards have definitely been lowered. They've been lowered. And it's created division. Because here's the thing about politicians. There's not really much required to be a politician. Think about it. It's easier to go after being a politician or having a political job than it is going to apply for a job as a waitress, as a groundskeeper, as a security guard. It's so competitive in the fact that you have to actually show a skill set. You have to actually be bringing something to the table. Whereas political positions, anybody can run for a political position. Basically, for United States, I know you just got to be an American citizen for so many years. You have to be a certain age. But there's really no criteria saying that you have to have this much experience. You don't. You don't have to have experience. Look at Trump. Perfect example. Arnold Schwarzenegger. Perfect example. Not comparing the two as far as what they did in office, but just saying you got two people that were TV actors that ended up having a big impact on people's lives. So when we talk about people that's getting into these political positions, should we start requiring that they have a certain amount of experience? That maybe before you become president, you will need to be a governor. You will need to be a senator. Should we put limits on how long a person can be a senator? I mean, because right now, this is sort of getting off topic, but don't you think that some of these senators have been in there so long that it's time to get that old dried out blood out and get some new blood, new youth in there with new ideas, new thoughts? But anyway, back to the subject. But the thing about it is, we really have lowered the standard for what we require from a politician, because basically the only thing they really have to provide is their political beliefs. So that's the thing. It's like you just basically say what you feel or think something should be or how it should go or how you feel or think that it may impact the people who you want to vote for you. And hopefully they like it. And if they like it, they vote. And guess what? You got a job, and some of these jobs you're paid for the rest of your life. Now, that's the crazy part. When you're going to apply for a regular job, you got to have your resume. You got to have a background check. If you got one thing that they feel like, oh my God, you're under investigation for what? You had this incident. I'm sorry, we can't hire you. Doesn't apply in politics. So, but that's the thing about it. Have we lowered the standard for our political leaders who are actually making decisions that affect each of us every day? Have we not set a bar for them that they need to meet this standard because they're ultimately deciding the future of this country? They say if you vote, we do, but truly we don't, because once they get elected, they do whatever they want to do. So have we lowered the standard for them in an area where it needs to be raised considerably for people running for politics? Now, another area I want to talk about, because I don't want to stay on that politics thing too long, man, because I get all hyped up on here. Then they be done kick me off. The FCC be done fine me about $250,000 or more, probably $1 trillion by the time I'm done really saying what I really feel. But so we're going to move on from that. But the next thing is, and I speak on this next area because I really want to address this with the mindset of where we are today. And I'm talking about awards and education. When I was coming up, it was like A's and B's. A C was barely tolerable. If you got a C in the household, you was on the way to being grounded. It was A's and B's, A's and B's. It just doesn't seem to be that way anymore when it comes to our education, when it comes to our youth, because it seems like everybody's so more focused on everything else. Academics is taking the precedence, but it sort of seems to have fallen back a little bit to the athletic side, the entertainment side of things, because I think people are now saying, hey, we can lower the standard for academics as long as you got some entertainment or sports capabilities. If you have those assets, then the academics really don't matter. That's another case of us lowering the standards in one place and raising them in another place. That may not be a good option. It may not be such a good thing to do, because when you let's take a look at the awards. Right now, awards are given to everybody. And I know what I'm about to say is probably going to make a lot of people upset, but I'm just going to tell the truth. We got the Muhammad Ali Humanitarian Award. We got the Walter Payton Award. We got the W.E.B. Du Bois Award, and it just kind of bothers me that these awards are given out today for great acts, great sacrifices that the people who they're named after made and can contribute to society and their communities. But then the people who are getting these awards today aren't doing very much to get them. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about the all-inclusive list. I'm not talking about everybody who's ever received it. But the majority of people who are getting these awards, I'll be honest with you, in my opinion, they don't deserve it. They don't. Now, I'm going to say this, and I know people not going to like this, but I'm going to put it out there. Colin Kaepernick was awarded top honors for African American studies because of the whole kneeling thing. Listen, here's my thing. I support what he was standing for. But Colin Kaepernick was more about his job. He even came back and said, hey, I will stand if you let me play football. So the thing about it is, a lot of these people are getting awards for acts based on stuff that they're doing that's pretty much self-motivated. You know what I mean? I just don't feel like they're being awarded awards that they really don't deserve. I feel like they're being given accreditation based on people who really, really sacrificed and gave a lot. You know, Bruce Jenner got the Courage Award because he made the transition. You know what? I don't think that's a Courage Award. I think there are so many people out there who's doing some greater things that could have got a Courage Award other than somebody saying, hey, I feel like a woman, so I'm going to be a woman now, but you got a Courage Award for that. I just feel like we're really lowering the bar when it comes to awards, when it comes to actually acknowledging the contributions that people are giving and contributing to society. You know, we're kind of minimizing what the people who actually their name after did. And I just feel like that way. I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? Well, I'm not sorry. That's how I feel. So do I think Colin Kaepernick deserved that award? No, I don't. I honestly don't. Did he deserve the W.E.B. Du Bois medal? No, he didn't. I'm sorry, he didn't. I don't think he deserved it. I mean, everything Colin Kaepernick did was basically him trying to get his job back. You know what I'm saying? So it was just everything after that was kind of a promotional thing to kind of keep going. So I'm sorry. I just don't feel like he deserved it. I appreciate what he was trying to do. I respect his stance, but I can't get behind those awards being given to him. And there's other people too. So it's not just him. But, I said much respect to Colin Kaepernick, but I just think we're lowering the bar. And I think that's why our younger generation today don't have the standards to go out and put back and give back to the community because the bar is being set so low. It's being set so low. We're lowering the standards in areas that we need to be raising the standards, or at least keep them at the previous level that they were. The next thing is going to be relationships. And I think this is a big issue. This is something that everybody can relate to. When it comes to relationships, a lot of people are lowering their standards in some areas, raising them in some areas. And some people have raised their standards so high that they have actually just eliminated any options and possibilities. Nobody's ever good enough. And this is men and women. Men and women have done this because you got some men and women with the attitude that the person has to be making six figures. They got to be driving this car. They got to own 2 or 3 houses, and they got to have all this great stuff. And they're not looking at what they should be looking at far as if you want to bring somebody into your life. Is it a God-fearing person? Are they in control of their spirit? Is this person somebody that has a strong foundation within themselves? Are they clear as to who they are, what they're trying to do, and where they're trying to go in life? Are they ambitious? Do they have goals? Are they focused? Are they balanced? Are they healthy? You know what I'm saying? Things like that people are overlooking because they've set the standard so high as far as materialistic things. But when it comes to the inner person, the actual individual, the bar is low. The bar is low. You rarely hear people say now, oh, I want somebody that's, has a good, strong relationship with God. Because now people are more focused on, what's your credit score? What can you do for me? What am I getting out of this? What is the benefit of me being with you? If I'm not getting this, and this, if you can't elevate me, if you can't financially do this, then this is a no-go. So we're setting the bar so high when it comes to the materialistic aspects of relationships, and we're lowering the bar so low when it comes to the inner person, the actual individual that they are. We're actually and I fail to understand why we can't see why so many relationships are falling apart and not working, and people just simply not grasping the fact that you need to set the bar high on the person. On the person. The materialistic stuff, I'm not saying you should be saying that, oh, you ain't got to have a job. I'm not saying that. But you can't base the fact that you're going to have a happy relationship because somebody has money, somebody has cars, somebody's making six figures. They can fly you around the world. They can put a 22-carat diamond on your finger. You can't base on the fact that you're going to have a happy relationship because of that. Because you can meet somebody who works at Kroger's and you work at the post office or you're a security guard, but when the two of you get together, if you got the same inner spirit and you got the same inner person and that chemistry is there and that match is there, y'all can become a powerhouse that's untouchable and blessed. But you got to understand how that works. And you got to understand that it has to be a balance in how where you set your goals as far as raising them and lowering them and getting that balance in there. And people don't always get that because they feel like if you ain't got it right now, I can't deal with you. I'm going to go over here with this person that's got it, and they end up wishing they wouldn't have got with that person. But hey, y'all stay tuned and come right back because you know how we do it on the Simply Straight Talk, man. We keep it 100. That's right. We keep it 100 because we're going to talk some more because you know what? We all about getting it together, getting ourselves together, getting our hearts and minds together. That's right. So free your mind, free your voice.
Don't even think about it. We got more straight talk just for you.
Hello, Simply Straight Talk family. If you are enjoying this episode, at the end of the show, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. And why not share this with a friend? Also, visit our blog at newlifenewmind.com, where you can find additional articles on more great topics. Stay tuned. The show will continue right after this message.
We're back with the conversation starter and the voice that works harder. Your host, Reggie.
All right, everybody, welcome back for the second half of the show. And today, we are talking about raising and lowering your standards in the wrong places. We talked about politics. We talked about relationships. We talking about education. We talked about the awards programs that they got, like the WEB Divorce Award, Muhammad Ali Humanitarian Award, the Walter Payton Award, because every day, we're set standards. And our standards, honestly, I feel like our standards are set based on our experiences, what we go through, what we dealt with. That sort of alters the way we set our standards in life. Now, sometimes it can cause us to raise our standards. Sometimes it can cause us to lower our standards. But I think the thing you got to remember is every experience that you go through in life, it can be bad, it can be good, may not be the right, how can I say this? It may not be the right target to use to set your standards. Whether it's for a relationship, whether it's for politics, whether it's for education, awards, whatever it is, if you're setting a standard, you got to make sure, first of all, that the standard is realistic. You got to make sure that it's realistic. And I think one of the biggest things, because I know for me, and I told this story before, when I was younger, if you asked me, Reggie, man, how do you see your wife in the future? Let me tell you something. At the age, I want to say about 10, 11, I had it all figured out. It was going to be a Puerto Rican girl with the caramel skin. She was going to have long hair down to her shoulders. She was going to have green eyes. And she was just going to be this, just beautiful accent. And we were just going to be this perfect couple, all happy. Man, let me tell you something. That woman never came. All right. The brother never met that woman at all. OK, the person I married was nowhere near close to that. Tell the truth, I shouldn't have married her. OK, but that's another story. But the thing about it is you got to set your standards. And I'll be honest with you, when I did get married, were my standards in the right place? Did I lower and raise my standards in the wrong areas? I did. I'm not going to lie to you. I did. That's what this show about, is telling the truth. And part of being able to set your standards and lower them and raise them in the right places is being able to look at yourself and say, listen, I went through this. Was my standards set in the right place? Am I setting my standards in the right place? Am I setting my standards based on emotions? or am I setting my standards based on reality? Because we talked about early in relationships how a lot of people now are kind of like, listen, if you don't have a house, if you don't have 2 cars, if you don't have a job making 6 figures, then I can't deal with you. It's not going to work. Now, I understand everybody has their preference. Everyone has their choice of what they want. But the thing about it is, if you're setting your standard based on that, and like I said, what happens when you meet somebody who does give you all that and they treat you bad, they treat you like crap? What happens now? What do you change your standard to now? Do you change your standard to, well, he has to make more money or she has to make more money? They have to have a bigger house instead of a 5-bedroom house. Now they got to have a 10-bedroom house. Or maybe you need to redirect your standard towards what you're trying to obtain. You see, because if your standard is based on a materialistic thing, like what we talked about earlier, if you set your standards based on what somebody has and what they can offer, you're going to be disappointed every time. Because here's the thing. Even though you go into a relationship, what that person bought or has is theirs. They earned it. However they earned it is theirs. It belongs to them. So you coming into a relationship saying you need to have all this before I be with you means that basically you're saying that I'm coming into this relationship and whatever you got is now going to belong to me. Is that really fair? So is it right for another person to say, well, listen, if you're telling me that I got to have 2 cars, make 6 figures, and I got to have a house with 10 rooms, so I'm taking it that you got 2 cars and you're making 6 figures and you got a house with 10 rooms. So you got to make sure that when you set your standards, if you're going to raise the standards on somebody else, then you got to raise the standards for yourself, because those same standards has to apply to you. They got to apply to you, because you can't have a high set of standards for somebody else. You know what I'm saying? So you telling them when they come to the table, they got to meet all these standards that you laid out on the table. But then when it's your turn to put your stuff on the table, you got a small table. So basically, you bring in a nightstand, but you want them to bring a formal dining room table to meet your standards. But in your case, they only got you just bringing a nightstand. Whatever standards they got for you has to fit on a nightstand. But whatever standards you got for them has to fit on a formal dining room table to seat 2 families. Come on now. We got to be realistic about our standards. Even when it comes to finances, you got to be realistic. I know everybody wants to obtain financial freedom. You want to start your own business. You want to do something with your life to where somebody else is not controlling everything. Even with financial freedom, you have to be realistic. Because you can't, a lot of people say, well, I want to make more money. I want to save up money. Well, you're always going to have bills. So you got to figure out how to balance that out. You can't say, I want to save up $20,000 by the end of the year, but you're spending more money. You pick up a part-time job and you're spending that money. So you're actually increasing your spending levels, but you're trying to save $20,000. Come on. You got to be realistic. You got to be realistic about what you're trying to achieve, what you're trying to do. So when you're setting standards and goals, make sure that you're raising them in the right places. When it comes to relationship, you need to be raising it as far as the person as an individual. What is he or she bringing to the table as a person? That's what you got to look at. As a person, what are they bringing? Because there's a difference between dating somebody who has money and they're famous and they're rich versus dating somebody who has endurance, who's stable, who's kind, has a good heart, and loyal. Those are 2 different people because you're dating 2 different things. Your standards are set on 2 different things. If this one person is set on the person having a good heart, being stable, being grounded, that's something that they can invest in. But when you're saying that you want somebody who's wealthy, rich, and got all this stuff, the materialistic stuff, that's not you. That's you are saying that I want them to invest in me with what they have. Because if you can't give that back, then honestly, you need to sit down somewhere until you come up yourself. But be realistic and learn to apply your standards when you're raising them and lowering them in the right areas to where you're directing them to what's really going to affect you. What's going to keep you together about that person? What's going to keep you together? If you're going to give out an award, or if you got a child, make sure that you're setting the standards for the grades. Don't force them to feel like, well, sports is the way. You can rap, that's the way. Entertainment, you can sing, you can dance, you can act. Don't throw all your child's dreams inside of a basket of rap or entertainment or sports. Let them know that they can set goals to do anything. They can make changes. They can be city councilmen. They can be governors. They can be mayors. They can be senators. Help them to understand that they can do things to where they can set their goals to stuff they can achieve, but you got to help them work towards that goal. And if we're giving out awards, let's start giving out awards to people that actually deserve them. Let's not minimize the award just so we can say we contributed this award to this person. Because a person may have done something that is good, but is it matching the standards that was set by the person who the award is named after? That's the type of stuff we need to start looking at. We got to start looking at that stuff. We talked about politics, the political leaders. Now, they definitely need some standards set on them because clearly there is absolutely no standard set on politicians whatsoever. Okay? Absolutely none. All right? But listen, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back after the message.
You're listening to Simply Straight Talk.
RM Viaging is a company based on life's journey and sharing life lessons with the world in the form of laughter and reflection, inspiring people to go after their dreams and not giving up on life. RM Viaging creates inspirational music and motivational speeches designed to motivate all age groups. Visit our website at www.rmviaging.com to hear samples of our music. You will also find motivational articles on our blog page titled New Life, New Mind Blog. We also have a weekly podcast hosted by Reggie called Simply Straight Talk, all on our website at www.rmviaging.com.
Are you ready for the straight truth? Reggie, what's the final word for today?
All right, everybody, we are back with the final thoughts of today's show. And today we were talking about lowering and raising your standards. Now, I understand that everybody has their own preferences. Everybody is going to set their own standards, and they're going to raise theirs and lower them based on what they went through, based on how they feel and what's best for them. Now, the thing I would like for you to do is just consider this. Take time to evaluate any standards you have regarding your relationships, regarding your friends, regarding your family, regarding love, and just make sure that you're doing it in the right way, that you're raising standards where they need to be raised, your values, what you believe in. Make sure that you're raising it in a place to one, where it's realistic, and two, to where you're actually doing it so it's measurable. Because you want to make sure that if you're raising your standards, it need to be something that if it's a standard applied against somebody else, that is something that can be reached. Don't set standards so high in areas that you yourself cannot achieve them. So make sure you're being fair about your standards. And if you are going to lower your standards, now I want to clarify something I didn't really mention during the show. If you're going to lower your standards because you realize that they're unrealistic, but don't lower your standards to the point to where you're actually just giving yourself away, that you're belittling yourself or you're not valuing yourself. So when I say lower your standards, if you're going to lower your standards, you're doing it because you've assessed your situation. You've taken time to analyze your values. You've analyzed the standards that you have set, and you have determined that this is what's best for you right now. And I think another thing that people fail to do when they are setting standards for themselves is they can change. You can make your standards grow in stages, in steps. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing thing. And I think a lot of people get in that mindset that, I have to set my standards so high, or I have to set my standards so low that I can't reach what I'm trying to do. So if you do have high standards and you realize that, hey, I need to come down a little bit, it doesn't mean that you got to drop your standards down to the dirt. It just means that you got to bring it down slowly to where you realize, okay, this is reasonable. This is reality. This is achievable. And the same thing with your standards. If you've lowered your standards, you can raise your standards back up. But just make sure it's the same thing. It's reasonable, it's rational, it's achievable, and it's measurable. So make sure you're doing that and make sure that it's fair. And I think that's the key thing. Don't set your standards too high to where you just sort of block everybody out where nobody else can ever meet your standards. Because if your standards are too high, you're going to feel like everybody's constantly failing you. Everybody's constantly disappointing you and let you down. And it may not be that they're intending to do that or they even want to do that. It's just that you just set things so high that humanly nobody can obtain it because it's just impossible. And the same thing, if you feel like you're getting walked over, maybe your standards are too low. Bring them up, but not so high, but just bring them up till you know what's fair for how you deserve to be treated. Now, everybody likes to call themselves a king or a queen. Yes, everybody wants to be treated like a king or a queen. But here's the thing. If you want to be treated like a king or a queen, make sure that if you're requiring a man to treat you like a queen because you're saying that he's supposed to be a king, then make sure that you have queen status yourself. Just like a man, if you're going to require a woman to treat you like a king, make sure that you have king status and preparation yourself. So don't be prepared to give something and require something from somebody else because of your standards, but you can't give it back. You know what I'm saying? You got to be reasonable. You got to make it measurable. You got to be fair. And you have to make sure of all things that is setting you up for the long term. It's achievable. Make sure it's achievable. Just because your goals are achievable, it doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean that you're settling. It means that you're just realistic, okay? Hey, that's it for today's show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. But make sure that you guys subscribe and like us on iTunes. Follow us throughout the year. Stay tuned with us. I love you guys. I appreciate all the support. And you guys have been great. You've always been great to us. But one person I got to give a shout out to is my man, Sam. Sam is the one who takes care of all the editing and the production stuff like that. So I appreciate Sam. He puts all this stuff together to make it flow and sound so good. So if you out there looking for some editing, you guys know, hit me up. I'm going to give you the information from my man, Sam. And I'm telling you right now, the boy's bad. He'll make you sound good. Hey, he do it for me every week. All right. Hey, I appreciate the love. I will catch you guys next go around.
That's this week's episode. Thank you for listening and being a part of the Simply Straight Talk podcast. We truly appreciate your support. Be sure to visit us at simplystraighttalk.com to join the conversation, access show notes, and discover our fantastic bonus content on Patreon. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to join us next week for another episode.